The closer we get to retirement, the more important it is to avoid costly mistakes. On today's show, 3 retirement investment mistakes older seniors should do everything possible to avoid on today's episode of Elevate Your Wealth.
And now, Elevate Your Wealth with Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins.
Welcome into Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts are Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins. 42 years combined experience in the retirement planning business. You can find them at Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. They are certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. We hit these retirement topics each and every week here on the show, but we also give you an opportunity to get answers to your questions about your retirement situation. If you have not started planning or you're in the middle of something, you need a second opinion, stay tuned. We're going to open up spots on the calendar for the upcoming week. And again, these are appointments at no cost, no obligation, simply no pressure. All right, guys, if you're aware of some common errors, it's pretty easy to avoid making them, correct? So we're going to go to school here a little bit. In particular, there are 3, count them, 1, 2, 3 mistakes that older seniors should do everything possible to avoid. Mark, we're going to start with you because you are our elder statesman on the show. And I think it's right that we start with you. Maintaining the wrong asset allocation based on risk tolerance. You are getting older. You are getting closer to retirement. You really need to watch this.
Yeah, in fact, it's funny you mentioned that, Morgan, because I'm turning on my Social Security here in like 2 months. So I'm right there with so many of the people that watch our show, watch our TV show, or listen to our radio program. But this is one that we see a huge problem. Casey does a really good job of analyzing portfolios, finding out what they're, how they're distributed inside their plan. But one of the things we see is too many of the big box stores do not take age enough into consideration. We believe that is critical because the older we get, it's that much more important then to make sure that you're maintaining the right asset allocation. Right? Because if you don't do that, you had a really good chance of sustaining some significant losses like what we saw play out last year. The average 401k and IRA account last year was down about 23%. And as you're in the retirement red zone, that can be devastating. It could take 5 or 6 years to recover from, if you recover at all. So, but there's a happy balance. We talk about this all the time each week. You don't want to be so conservative that you risk running out of money because you're not earning enough, especially to stay up with inflation. And we're seeing the inflation bandit working his tail off right now, and he's gobbling up a lot of money right now that people don't realize is happening because it's like the wind. You can't see inflation, you can see the effects. And so we need to be balanced about how we allocate into our plan. So, but it means it's on a regular basis, you need to be assessing your risk as we go. So the older we get, a lot of investors need to be dialing down the risk that they're taking a little bit. And it should really be based on our age. A personalized assessment of risk tolerance is ideal to decide on what type of mix then that you're going to have. Now, everybody a lot of times is asking, well, Mark, they ask Casey, how do I do that? How do I determine what my risk is? Well, we do a risk score at the beginning of working with any client. We use a program called Riskalyze, and that's going to tell us exactly where this client is going to fall when it comes to their risk and how much they're willing to take. And we like to usually, instead of just assigning a number between 1 and 100, or the program does, we like to show them in dollars what they're willing to risk. And once you put $1 to it, it changes things dramatically. We believe is critical is you need to be rebalancing your portfolio. But if you want to understand a simple way to deal with risk, look up the rule of 100. It's simple. So if you're 60 years old, take 60 off 100. That leaves me 40, right? No more than 40% of your portfolio should be at risk. You should have about 60% in guaranteed accounts. So that's an easy way to understand age-based planning. Now, when you rebalance, the important point about doing that, some different things are going to be acting differently in different market environments. And so because of that, you're going to want to rebalance because some won't be performing near as good as others are. So rebalancing is going to be important because what you don't want to find yourself doing is having to sell at a loss after a crash or a correction happens. And then you have to rely on these investments. So you're locking in those losses. So rebalancing, doing age-based planning is so critical to maintaining a true plan that's going to take you all the way to the end of your retirement.
Elevate Your Wealth. Mark Stimson, Casey Elkins, your host. Again, you can find them at Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. There's going to be an opportunity to get on their calendar, talk about your situation when it comes to retirement. Maybe you haven't started planning, or maybe you need that second opinion. Right now, you're close. We're talking about this topic. You're close to retirement. These are mistakes you need to avoid, all right? So if you have the wrong asset allocation based on your risk tolerance, that is mistake number one. Here's mistake number two. Casey, we'll get you to jump all over this one. Failing to diversify the portfolio.
Yeah, as Mark just mentioned, Morgan, risk tolerance is a very important piece to this puzzle, but it's not just that determines how you should be invested. You really have to have diversification. This is one of the first rules, and this is something that it seems to be people are very familiar with. I think everybody understands the concept, right? We spread our monies or our investments across different baskets, and that allows us to create some level of protection so that when something is going wrong in one sector or one particular investment, that in turn, the other ones are not doing the exact same thing. And so everybody kind of understands this idea, and yet for some reason, when we sit down with folks and we do an analysis and we go over everything, what we find more often than not is that people have lots of different funds, but those funds are actually doing the same thing. And so maybe for those listening at home, just as a way to take your temperature on this, if you look back at last year and you lost 20, 24, 25%, something along those lines, anywhere around that number, those numbers, chances are you're probably not diversified like you would hope that you are, or like you should be. Because that's quite a bit of loss and something that could be avoided potentially with the right type of investments. And so that diversification, as you get older, you have less time to recover from big losses when something goes wrong, which means that you need to make sure that there's a strategy, right? That's what all of this boils down to. Day in and day out, what we do is all about strategy. And so to reduce your risk, maximize the chances of having the money necessary that you need to actually see you through retirement, you want to invest in different companies, different industries, different asset classes. You don't ever want to put so much in one spot that you're overexposed if that particular investment doesn't go well. In that circumstance, really, you're betting your entire success of your retirement on one particular investment or one particular asset class. And that's just a recipe for disaster. And it doesn't take a lot of explanation to really kind of grasp that concept, but we bring that up simply because we see it fairly regularly. We see people that are very happy or very excited about a particular stock. And we get it. There's certain stocks that we're really excited about, right? Particular investments that we're really excited about. But we do see that folks are very overweighted in some of these situations. And so it's important to really have a strategy, to have a second look, and make sure that you're building a plan. Now, if you aren't sure how to build a diversified portfolio on your own, obviously sitting down with somebody who can help you do that is one of the first things that you can do. The second, if you want to try and tackle it on your own to some extent, is using exchange traded funds, which are ETFs. We do see mutual funds as well, but ETFs typically have a lower cost. One of the main ones that we see is the S&P 500. The S&P 500, there's different companies, but ultimately those typically have low cost. They're inherently diversified because they're made up of 500 different companies widespread throughout the U.S., different industries and things of that nature. But there is something else to be aware of, and this kind of ties back to what Mark said, which is that there is some inherent volatility to an S&P 500 fund. And so that may create some diversification, but does it also give us the right amount of exposure, what we're looking for and what we're comfortable with? And so this is where we have the concept of one individual decision or one investment making or affecting our other decisions, our other investments. And so it's important to keep all of that in mind. And this is really where, again, strategy and having a plan comes into play.
Going over, again, 3 mistakes you need to avoid if you're near retirement. We've talked about 2 of them. We've got a real short segment here. We'll get to the third one. But maintaining the wrong asset allocation based on risk tolerance is number 1. And then failing to diversify that portfolio is number 2. Mark, real quickly, investing without liquid savings is number 3.
Yeah, and you've got to do this. We want our clients to have anywhere from 1 to 2 years of pure liquidity, okay? Because things are going to happen in life. Life is not static. Things and emergencies are going to happen. So if you avoid these 3 mistakes, not having liquidity and the things that we just talked about, Casey, myself, you can maximize your retirement. So please give us a call. We want to help.
All right, Casey, we've got positions on the calendar. Walk us through what's going to happen for these appointments.
Well, for those that are willing to pick up the phone and give us a call, if you've saved more than $250,000, what we want to do is provide a written financial plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. The reason that that's what we offer is because we realize that's what people need. That's what's going to create a successful retirement. What we've been talking about this morning, your risk, the risk that you're taking in the market. A question for you. Has that been dialed in specifically for you? Has it been set up for you? Has it been custom tailored for you? That's something that we're going to sit down and have a conversation with you about. In addition to that, how diversified are you? Do you have the diversity that you need to create success in retirement? Or perhaps you're overweighted in one particular investment? Do you have too much liquid savings? What does all of this look like in the future? What does your income look like? What are your income sources? How are taxes going to affect your retirement? Definitely something that has to be considered. And something that any advisor worth their salt is making sure they're taking care of. So if you have questions, concerns about your investments, don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. Give us a call.
All right. We have those calendar positions available now. 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. No cost, no obligation. And again, no pressure if you've saved at least $250,000 towards your retirement. 866-668-3625. Just saying I want to retire, it's not enough. When we come back, some strategies to bump up your retirement date. Elevate Your Wealth, hosted by Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins. You can find them both at Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. And between the two, 42 years experience combined in the retirement planning business. They are financial fiduciaries, certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate. It is always about retirement on this program. We get into different issues, different topics. You're going to have questions about your own situation, and it's okay. It's okay to have questions, and guess what? Get the answers. We have spots on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management. We're going to open those up here, and they are no cost, no obligation, simply no pressure. If you've saved at least $250,000 towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. You can call and grab one of the appointments right now, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. So some people have zero interest in retiring, but then there are those that would like nothing more than to hang it up tomorrow. I might be one of those, and stroll into the sunset, so to speak, or on the golf course or wherever you want to do your retirement. We've put together some strategies that you can do that could move that retirement date a little closer. All right. So take some notes. Casey, let's start with you. Investing for income. How do you go about investing for income?
Well, one of the first things that you can do is max out your tax advantage accounts. So putting those, saving those funds, savings as much as you can, especially, and we hit this all the time, in your 401k, if you have an employer match, save in that account, max out the match, get the free money. Now, what do you do with those funds, right? How do we then invest those funds to create income? We want to look at all the options out there in the investing landscape. So some of those are dividends. That's one of the main ways that folks do it inside the market. Bonds have been used in the past, but I will say that bonds are a little questionable at the moment, just given the volatility that bonds have displayed in more recent years. Another way is actually using insurance products like an annuity to produce income.
Oh, not the A word.
Not the A word. Yeah,
Don't
we
say
said
it on the
right?
air.
So,
don't say it. Annuity.
And that, we won't go into great detail there, but I mean, Mark said it, right? It is something that annuities get a bad rap, but I'll tell you what, they do something that nothing else does, which is provide guaranteed lifetime income, just like your pension, just like Social Security. There's no question if it's going to be there, it's going to continue on. And so that's a great way to produce income. Sometimes it's a mix of all of the above, right? Sometimes it's dividends and an annuity and taking liquidations from our accounts or withdrawals or whatever the circumstance requires and whatever is most appropriate. But as far as those individual investments go, it's worth taking a look at all the options. Which realistically is going to require somebody with industry knowledge to help guide you in that process. But keep an open mind and definitely take those thoughts to heart as you build an income plan for yourself.
Well, over the course of this show, I love the example that Mark uses when it comes to annuities, and we get into those discussions. He always reminds us that Social Security is an annuity. And people are like, it's kind of a head turner when you start talking about it. And again, you really need to investigate. Could be something that might be a good fit for the portfolio. But the most important thing is to have a plan. Again, going over some strategies. If you want to get to retirement a little bit sooner, maybe these are things that you can do to get you there, investing for income. And what about, Mark, what about rebalancing your retirement investments? How do you make sure that you are allocated properly?
Now, Casey just mentioned something that we believe is really critical. You want to take advantage of any free money that you can get if there's a match. I'm not a tremendous fan of 401k plans if there is no match. I'd rather help my clients create tax-free income versus tax-deferred income. Tax-free would be the equivalent of the Roth, right? There's reasons we want to do that from a tax planning perspective. But something that we see all the time is they set up their plan at work, and there's a rah-rah session in the cafeteria, and everybody allocates are younger, so they like to go aggressive, right? And the problem is they don't ever go and rebalance. They never change how they're allocated inside their plan, because Casey talks about this on our workshops. We talk about once you set your plan up, we call it the yo-yo plan. You're on your own. And that's what happens. People don't get any help. They don't have any guidance. They don't understand what to do, which I totally get that. We never get any training in school to help us make these decisions. What should we do? So we tend to do nothing. And that can be disastrous in a long period of time, especially as we get closer to retirement. So we need to have somebody that can help us allocate these plans in the right way. And that's what's going to happen if you use somebody that, as Casey mentioned, might know a little bit more to help us make a decision that hopefully won't end up turning into a nightmare or disaster for us, because we just never wanted to look at it, right? We wanted to set it and forget it. But in this type of planning, you just can't do that. It's gonna backfire on you if you never look at it and never make any changes.
Elevate Your Wealth, the program you're tuned to. Your hosts are Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins. Again, you can find them at Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. They have a wonderful resource website. Check it out, efmnw.com. All letters, efmnw.com. Links to the TV show, Elevate Your Wealth, and also all of our radio shows and podcast form. Great information there for you. And again, this is always about retirement. We talk it, and we also give you an opportunity to get on the calendar with Casey, with Mark, the entire team at Elevated Financial Management. We'll open those up here in just a little bit. So strategies, you want to get to retirement maybe a little bit quicker, things that you can do. So you're investing for income, rebalancing your retirement investments. And then what about the benefits of converting to a Roth IRA? Casey?
This is a great option, as Mark mentioned, building tax-free income in retirement, right? So most folks are familiar with the details, but we'll hit them briefly, make sure we're all on the same page. It's essentially the opposite of an IRA or a 401k. So an IRA or a 401k, we pay the money in up front, which we have not paid taxes on. And when we take the money out in the future, every dollar that comes out, the money we originally put in and the growth is taxed, right? With a Roth account, it's the exact opposite. We pay taxes up front, so we were going to pay it at our current income tax bracket. The money goes in, it grows tax-free, and it comes out tax-free. So we pay taxes once. It's one and done. And that's really key, because if we're thinking that tax rates are going to go up when we're worried about that particular conversation, as I think most people are, would it not be better to pay taxes now when we know what the tax rate is, when we understand what that is, versus in the future? It could be double what we're paying. It could be 5% more than what we're paying. It could be some unknown number to us. We have no idea what it will be, right? There's no guarantee of what that is. And so that's really the big benefit when it comes to a Roth account. We can still invest that Roth account in the market, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, REITs, ETFs. We can still use an annuity if we want to, as we discussed earlier. So the investment choices remain the same. It really comes down to how it's taxed. And if you're looking at your retirement and you do not have a tax plan, you do not understand how taxes are going to affect your income in retirement, you're doing yourself a major disservice. And this is really where the Roth starts to come into play. If we have some time and we can contribute to a Roth or convert to a Roth, that's going to lessen our tax burden in retirement. And the whole key about all of this is getting as much income as we can so that we can live the life that we want to live. So the less taxes we have to pay, the more likely that's going to be.
Want to get to retirement? Want to get there a little earlier? These are some things that you could do that might help you along that way and get you there a little bit quicker. Investing for income, rebalancing your retirement investments, converting to a Roth IRA perhaps. The last one we're going to have time for, Mark, is this one. Cutting your spending. That's just tightening up the belt to get you where you need to go a little bit quicker.
And that is also one of the things that's not the easiest to do. But one of the things we want to have our clients begin to look at is there a way that you can reduce your annual expenses? Okay, because if you do that, it's going to just bring your retirement that much closer. But it's easier said than done, because when we have to think about, another thing that we want to look hard at is eliminating debt. We're trying to reduce our debt load, right? I just had a client where she carried about $21,000 worth of credit card debt, had a little bit left on a car loan. And what we decided to do was to take some money out, pay the tax, but we got rid of those two bills. And for her, it was an emotional lift. She was so glad to get rid of those bills, but it really helped her know a lot easier what her target number or her retirement number needed to be and how we were going to get there each month. But it is a challenge to do that. It's not it's easier said than done to just possibly live on less money than what we're accustomed to. So, but if you're serious about wanting to plan, right, and you do have a written plan, it's going to help you to reach that goal so much easier, so much faster. But reducing debt and our expenses can be a huge reason as to why we can retire earlier than we ever dreamed or hoped it might be.
If you're one of those that want to get there a little bit quicker, or you just want to start planning, or maybe you need that second opinion, now's your opportunity. We have spots on the calendar, 10 total. We've opened them up. Mark, what's going to happen for these 10 callers?
Yeah, like we just mentioned, we want to put together a plan specifically for you. So if you've maybe worked at Boeing or your Weyerhaeuser or any of the great companies in the Seattle, Tacoma area, pick up the phone if you save $250,000 or more, because what we're going to do is we're going to develop a written plan done by our team of certified financial planners based on your situation. We're going to look at taxes for you. What bucket should I take money out of and at what time? What about your income? Is that going to be guaranteed? We haven't talked much about health care. How do I address long-term care? Do I have a trust or a will? Any of these things are important, but you got to have a plan. So please pick up the phone, give us a call, because all we want to do is have a conversation. You're going to keep your checkbook at home, and let's put together a plan that'll get you to your retirement date.
All right, 10 calendar appointments available right now, 866-668-3625. If you have saved at least $250,000 towards your retirement, these strategies going to work best for you. 866-668-3625. Call that number now, 866-668-3625. When we come back, we've got some stats about retirement planning that may have you saying, what? How can that be? Details coming up. Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts are Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins. Welcome into the program. I'm consumer advocate Morgan Patrick. You can find Mark and Casey at Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle, and they have 42 years combined experience helping hundreds of clients get ready for their retirement. And that's what we do each and every week. We talk about retirement topics. We raise a lot of questions. We give you a lot of answers, but it's about having a plan, providing that pathway to get you to the retirement you've always wanted. But you really need to have something custom made for you. If you haven't started planning, or if you're in the middle of something, need a second opinion, we are going to open up spots on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management. You come in, you meet with Mark and Casey and their team, and you start to work. If you haven't started planning, or maybe you pivot, maybe you need that second opinion. We're going to open up the spots here in just a little bit. So it appears folks aren't as invested in the process of retirement planning in the last few years. Now, a recent Harris poll and Nerd Wallet survey indicate that in the year 2023, 60% of Americans don't have a retirement-specific savings account, such as 401k or even an IRA, which translate into about 150 million people. That's a lot. Casey, just your thoughts on those numbers.
That's a huge number. And the fact that, it's just so surprising, I think, that as we're approaching so many different things happening at once, right? We have market volatility, we have taxes going up, we have inflation, we have all these things happening at once. And yet over the last few years, people are less invested in retirement planning. It just seems to be the exact opposite of what we would expect this poll to say, right? Given the state of the economy and just where everything is, folks that come into our office are more concerned about the future than they've ever been. They're more concerned about their retirement than they've ever been, right? And so it's very interesting to see numbers like this because for folks that look at this and think, well, the market always goes up, I'm going to be all right, and just kind of have this optimistic attitude. I'm very happy you're an optimistic person. I think that's great. But when it comes to retirement, where we get one chance, and this is something you've been working on for 40 years, but it takes planning. It takes time. We've got to be invested in it. We've got to invest the time to make sure that we're going to be successful. It takes the right type of accounts, the right type of investments, the right type of tax planning, all of those things. And so if this is you, I would encourage you to kind of take a second look at things. If this is not you and you're hearing this going, man, what are these people thinking? I can't believe they're not worried about this. Same thing. Take the steps. Now's the time. Take the steps. The more time that you have, the more options you have to improve your situation.
I mean, think about it. Casey brings up a really good point. You've worked and you've saved for 40 years. Why be blasé about it now? You need to have a plan, opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management. It's going on right now. We have 10 appointments, and it's no cost, no obligation, no pressure. If you've saved at least $250,000, and there are a lot of you out there that have these wonderful portfolios, that does not equate to a retirement plan. You've saved well, you've accumulated, but now what's going to happen? You're going to get to retirement's door and just go, okay, what next? You need to plan for it. Again, opportunity is knocking. We have 10 positions on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management, and you can grab one right now. No cost, no obligation, no pressure. 866-668-3625. Again, if you've saved at least $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. 866-668-3625, but have a plan. You've worked hard for this, and have a plan as you move towards your retirement date. So disconnected, we're going over some numbers that have been thrown out. Disconnected, perceptions versus reality in retirement planning. A new study from the Stanford Center of Longevity, the SCL, examines the challenges and concerns facing retirees and pre-retirees as they plan for retirement. Mark, what kind of numbers did you get out of this one?
Yeah, this is a scary one too, like Casey just mentioned. 72%, so almost 3 out of 4 of us, stated that they are using their instincts as a driving force to help them make decisions about retirement. Mm-hmm. Now think about what I just said. Mm-hmm. They're using their instincts to do this, right? Half of the group responded that their intuition was the only resource that they used in making these decisions. Now, all I can say to that, I think Casey would wholeheartedly agree, is that's pretty scary, right? I've been doing this type of planning for close to 40 years now, and I know one thing: I don't use just my intuition in doing planning. You've got to research things. Things change. Vehicles used for planning change. And if we don't stay up to date with options, it's like somebody that still wants to use a typewriter versus a keyboard, right? Technology helps us in many, many ways. Now, it can be scary, right? But again, I don't recommend anybody just use their gut or their intuition to make these type of decision, because Casey mentioned it. He was right on the head with this one. You get one chance to make this right. If you make a wrong decision, like maybe not taking a 100% spousal option on your pension, and you take a 50% option, right? And then you die, and all of a sudden, the wife's income is going to be cut by 50%. We call that the widow's penalty. And why would you do that, right, to somebody that you love? See, so these type of decisions need to be understood, and you need to have information so that you can make a decision that you're going to be happy with in the long run. And for a lot of us, intuition is just not going to cut it. So I would highly recommend that you don't do that. And I think, Casey, you'd like to add something to this.
Yeah, man, just the thought of using instincts for something like this is just
7 out of 10. I mean, 7 out of 10 out of this survey. That number is eye-opening.
It's staggering, actually.
Man, that's just something where I got news for you. Your instincts are wrong sometimes. And when it comes to investments, it is not instinctual. Oftentimes, doing the right thing takes a lot of understanding because it doesn't always feel the right way up front, right? Mm-hmm. And this is where we talk about fear and greed on the show. That's the two driving forces behind people's investments. And those things, that type of emotion will lead you down the wrong path. And instinct, intuition, not everybody here knows Mark the same way that I do, but Mark is famous for hearing something of this nature and going, wow. And that is my only response to this type of thought is, wow, I cannot believe that this is how people responded, because it's just like leaving it up to chance. I mean, you might as well flip a quarter and just hope for the best. So guys, you've got to have a plan.
Yeah, let me just jump in. Why do you think that is? Do you think people are just intimidated to put it out there, and talk about their finances? I mean, this is, it's a very sensitive subject, and it's almost like, I'm gonna use the excuse of I'm gonna use my intuition. I just think they're a little bit nervous about, bringing all their stuff to the table.
I think that's exactly what it is. I think Casey would agree. People. If we're scared sometimes because we don't know who to trust, right? We don't know who to take our most intimate things. And when money gets involved, people change. And so it's very hard to get people to open up. And that's why we work so hard to educate, try and get people to feel okay with talking about this, because you cannot continue to stick your head in the sand about this, because if you do, it's not going to probably work out the way you thought it was going to work out. And so we want everybody to feel comfortable when they come into our office, because this is a staggering number that I still can't get over. And I would say, wow.
Yeah. And I would agree. I mean, that's it, right? I think you hit the nail on the head, Morgan. People are concerned, even embarrassed to some extent, right? And not necessarily embarrassed that maybe they haven't saved enough money. I mean, I'm sure that's on the list. But embarrassed sometimes that they don't understand their own finances. They don't understand their own investments. And it makes them feel, maybe for lack of a better word, kind of dumb. And the deal is, you do not need to feel that way. The majority of the population does not understand their own finances. Our education system does a very poor job. It actually doesn't do a poor job. It just doesn't do it at all. Educating people as to just regular finance and balancing a checkbook and, how the market works and things of that nature. And so, as Mark mentioned, that's why we spend so much time educating, is to help people feel empowered, to feel like they can make a decision and be confident in the decision that they're making. And there's no embarrassment in our office. There's nothing like that. For lack of a better word, it's a safe space, right? It's something where we just talk through where things are and how can we make it better, and do we want to take the time to make it better? What do we need to do to make that happen? And that's really all it is. That's all it boils down to.
Having a plan, asking questions, getting that information back, being comfortable with that conversation. I know that's a hard thing to hear, but just sitting down and having the conversation is going to give you that ease of mind because you've started down the path. Again, survey numbers, learning from history. I mean, this is a big one. And when you think about it, we can learn from other people. I mean, people that have gone before us. And this next part of the survey, 6 in 10, 60% say that have already been in retirement. They're already there. Casey. 6 in 10 say, I wish I would have planned better.
Yeah, not a surprise when we consider the statistics we just reviewed, right? If 70%, 72% of people are going based on intuition and instincts, it's not a surprise that the majority of them are wishing that they had planned better. But the deal is as we just talked about, this is actually kind of a newer thing. This is a newer trend that people are becoming more or not as interested in planning for their retirement. So the generation prior, or the years prior, was interested. And so what this boils down to is the ones that did plan wish they planned better, which tells me that if we fast forward, the people right now that are not planning, the people right now that are trusting intuition and instinct are going to wish even more so that they had done something, that they had taken the initiative. And ultimately that makes perfect sense, right? Because without that plan, you're going to get there and realize that you've made a big mistake, and it's hard to unwind it at that point.
If you don't do any planning, you're going to have to live with the pain of regret. And that one is so much harder to deal with than the pain of discipline. So that's just something I think Casey tried to focus on here.
Tell you, having a plan, being ready for retirement, not having regret once you get into retirement starts with a phone call. We've got positions on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management, and you can get that ease of mind knowing you've either started down the path or you're getting that second opinion. Casey, what's going to happen at these 10 appointments?
Well, for those that are willing to pick up the phone, give us a call. If you've saved $250,000 or more, we're gonna give you a written financial plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. So this is for the folks that don't want to leave this to chance. This is for the folks that don't want to look back and wish that they had done more, wish that they had done something differently. This is for the folks that want to enjoy their retirement, that want to spend the time doing the things that they've been working towards all these years. So with that, we're going to talk about your income. We're going to talk about taxes. We're going to talk about all the things that we regularly talk about on the show. But if you're hearing this and you want to make sure that you have a successful retirement, this offer is for you.
Folks, it's your opportunity right now to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management. Call this number, 866-668-3625. Again, 10 appointments available, 866-668-3625. If you've saved at least $250,000 towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call now, 866-668-3625. Coming up, we'll go over some scenarios. I'll throw them at the guys. We'll see how they do. Again, it's always about retirement right here on Elevate Your Wealth. Welcome back into Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts are Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins. You can find them right here in Seattle. Elevated Financial Management, 42 years combined experience between these two in the retirement planning business, helping hundreds of their clients get ready for their retirement. They are certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick, consumer advocate and sometimes referee between Mark and Casey. We're going to get into scenarios, all right? So this is a female asking this question. Casey, answer this one for us. I'm 52 years old. I'm divorced, considering getting remarried to a man who is 61 years old, also divorced. Can I draw on his Social Security when I turn 62? That's the first question. Can his ex-wife also collect on his Social Security?
Good question, and one that actually we get fairly regularly. You can draw on his Social Security when you turn 62 years old. Just based on the numbers that you shared, I know that you will have been married for at least a year at that point. So that is one of the requirements to pull a spousal benefit on Social Security. You need to be married for at least 12 months. In addition to that, an ex-spouse can still claim on his Social Security as well, but they need to have been married for at least 10 years. And they need to have been divorced for 2 years consecutively. So that's kind of the requirement from that side of things. Now, ultimately, there's still some other items to consider. You can start it at 62, but it will be a reduced amount. You're not going to get a full 50%. If you were to wait until your full retirement age, then you would get 50% of your spouse's benefit. But if you started at 62, you're starting early and you will receive a reduced amount. And so it's important to understand that this kind of all ties together. Social Security is kind of a cluster in some ways, and that there's a lot to it. And Mark is a nationally certified Social Security advisor. We teach a Social Security retirement workshop that goes into a lot of these details. And I answered the question for you very directly, but what I'll say is that it's more complicated than that, because you want to consider the timing of when you start Social Security. You want to consider how that factors into the other incomes that you're pulling, the pension that you might have, what your investment accounts will produce for income and things of that nature. And so, again, this really boils down to having a plan. You can absolutely start the Social Security when you turn 62 based on your potentially new husband. But is that the right decision? Is it the most beneficial decision? There's a lot of details that I'd have to answer that. You want to add something, Mark?
Yeah, and Casey's really just talked about this a little bit. That decision is important, right? Because if you do it at 62, you're going to lose close to 25 to 30% of your money forever. That's a big whammy, right? Not necessarily what you want to do. The other thing that causes a lot of confusion when it comes to spousal benefit is if your husband, let's say, waited till age 70 to begin, you don't get half of his 70 number, half of his full retirement age number, which is going to be a lot less. Where him waiting till 70 affects the survivor benefit, not the spousal. So understanding these, and the Medicare and Social Security handbook has close to over 2,700 rules that we have to know and understand when it comes to maybe our claiming age and all the different things you want to know about before you make a decision that's going to affect your money forever, as long as you're alive. So please talk with somebody that really knows what they're talking about when it comes to Social Security planning, because it can make a huge difference in helping you to be successful and maximizing your drawdown of your Social Security benefits.
Elevate Your Wealth, the program you're tuned to. We're in the middle of question and answer, going over different scenarios and seeing how Mark Stimson and Casey Elkins of Elevated Financial Management would handle said scenarios. The next one, we'll throw this one at Mark. Mark, here we go. Should I be concerned that I have been working with a financial advisor for 2 decades and we've never discussed my risk tolerance?
This almost goes back to what we were talking about with making a decision based on your intuition. Okay. I kind of blame this on the planner, number one, but it also has to bring a little bit of shame on me, right? To know, because I think all investors know that there's risk, right? We're told this all the time from the time that we invest in the market, and past performance is not going to be indicative of future returns because of risk and other factors. But to not have ever talked with your advisor in 2 decades about that, and you're now 20 years older, that is such a shame on him or her. That's all I can say. And you're right. I would definitely consider talking to somebody else, because we believe risk. In fact, everybody that we help manage their assets, that's one of the first things that we have to do. And the SEC requires us too, and FINRA. We have to get a risk score so that we understand and then put together models or portfolio makeup that's based on your risk. So I don't know how anyone could go 20 years without ever talking about risk, number one. But I believe it's something that we all need to be very careful about. And we need to be working with somebody that cares about risk. Because if you never talk about it, that to me is throwing all caution to the wind. And if you lose a bunch of money because you're too aggressive as we get older, well, then who are we going to blame, right? We're going to blame the planner. Trust me, we know how that's going to happen. But we also have to kind of blame ourselves. And something that we all need to be very concerned about. I think Casey's got an important thought to make here as well.
Yeah, that's really surprising. That's very alarming, actually. As Mark mentioned, it's not only something that needs to be discussed, but it's also something that's required to be discussed. I mean, in our industry, that's a requirement to have that conversation, to have that understanding of what a client is comfortable with and what's appropriate for that individual client. And so to me, that would be the equivalent of going to have surgery and the doctor never asks if you have allergies to medication or never does a blood panel to see where things are at. I mean, it's a major red flag. I mean, you'd get up out of there right away. You wouldn't come back for a surgery, right? You wouldn't trust that doctor, and that's the equivalent here. Is I mean, this is something that should have been discussed day one and should have been an ongoing discussion brought up by the advisor, because this is your life is changing, your risk tolerance is inherently changing, and what you're comfortable with varies, especially over 2 decades. I mean, 20 years. Things have changed a lot in your life in that time frame, and the risk, the investments that you're using, that kind of thing, that should have been adjusted over and over and over again.
And we talk about it and make it a part of every review that we do. Yeah. And and we also have to document it. It needs to be in your file, right? So that it has been discussed. So this is something that you just can't mess around with. It needs to happen for everybody, no matter who you work with.
Yeah, the set it and forget it. That should not be happening. I mean, it is your retirement. Hitting, again, scenarios. And again, you're going to have questions about your own situation. There's going to be an opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management here in just a second. And these are no cost, no pressure, no obligation appointments. If you've saved at least $250,000 towards your retirement, you can grab one of these appointments. Again, get that ease of mind knowing that you've either started down the planning path or you're getting that second opinion. All right, next scenario. Casey, this one for you. Is it true that you can retire and live on dividend income? I'm 53. Wanted to ask if this was indeed a viable option, and would it be reusable and safe?
I would say there's some caveats to that. I will say this. Some folks do live on dividend income. So yes, it is absolutely possible. But there's some things you need to know, right? Because dividend income is not a guaranteed thing. It's not like your pension. It's not like your Social Security that you're going to get guaranteed forever. In addition to that, there is some volatility inside of the underlying investments too. And so is the volatility acceptable? Is it something that you can stomach over the course of a retirement? In addition to that, the idea of whether or not it's safe, that has a lot to do with the underlying investment itself and the particular companies that you're invested in. Are they long-time dividend producers? Are they potentially a risk? Are they going to lessen their dividend or cut it altogether? And how much dividend they're paying is an important piece to this puzzle. Commonly, the higher the dividend, the more risky it may be. And the potential chance that you may not continue to get that for a long time. So it is something where you really want to understand that. Now, that's not to say that Mark and I don't use dividends to produce income for folks. We absolutely do. And we're big fans of dividends, but they're not all created equal. They're not all the same thing, right? So that term dividend can mean one thing to one person and another to another. And so it's important to see how that plays into your portfolio. It's an important thing to determine how it's going to affect your retirement overall. Very rarely do Mark and I ever lean on dividends as the 100% source of income outside of Social Security or pension. Very rarely do we lean on it in that regard. That's a lot of pressure to put on one thing. And it potentially can create some issues. In addition to that, one of the main issues that we see when there's too much pressure put on dividends is the income that we need in retirement, are we going to allow that to be flexible, or do we need a certain amount in retirement? And that's what this really boils down to. If you're okay having a flexible amount of income in retirement, then dividends may be a stronger option for you. If you want to know how much you're going to have and know that you're going to get that forever, dividends are probably not the only play that you need to make. Do you want to add something, Mark?
Yeah, and I'm just going to say, to go along with that, I just think our plans usually have a very set amount of income that we know is guaranteed, whether it's pension, Social Security, annuity income. We want the bulk of their bills to be able to be paid every month on a guaranteed basis. We want it to be reality income, not maybe income, and that's where dividends don't really fit. Then we like dividends to kind of help with more of the fun money, the money that we're going to use for travel, maybe doing things with our grandkids, our children. See, so again, it's about having a plan. That's really going to help us in the long run.
Yeah.
Tell you, folks, have that map to get you to and through retirement. Ask questions, get the answers, work with fiduciaries. Now's your opportunity. Mark, we've got 10 positions on the calendar for the upcoming week. Walk us through what's going to happen at these 10 appointments.
Okay, so what we're going to do, if you've saved at least $250,000 or more, maybe you worked at Boeing, and you heard us talk about today, if you're really worried about how you're set up right now, maybe you have been a do-it-yourselfer, and that's okay. But maybe you feel like, hey, I'd like a second opinion. Or maybe you're worried about your income. Where's it going to come from? Is it going to be guaranteed? We're going to look at taxes for you. We believe tax planning is a big part of what a lot of other planners don't want to touch. Big time. It's a major part of every plan that we do. We're also going to look at how do you want to move money to the next generation? Do you have a plan set up to move money to your children or grandchildren? What's the best way to do that? Do you have a trust? So these are all things that we want you to get from a team of certified financial planners that is written. And that can make all the difference in the world when it comes to having a successful retirement. So please pick up the phone and give us a call. Leave your checkbook at home and let's just have an easy conversation. That's all.
We have 10 appointments available right now. 866-668-3625. No cost, no obligation, no pressure. If you've saved at least $250,000 towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call now. 866-668-3625. Another edition of Elevate Your Wealth, powered by Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle, is in the books. We'll see you on the radio next week.
Investment advisory services offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. All rights reserved.